Hi everyone, it's Frances from Craft Matters. So today I'm going to have a look at the European Craft Alliance's co-funded report with the European Union called Unveiling the Potential of the Craft Sector. I'm going to have a look at the key insights from it using my craft framework to help assess any new project you might be undertaking in your craft business. So the craft framework stands for these words here. So the first one is we're going to be clarifying what our ideas are, who we are, why we do this. When we clarify what that is, we're going to just undertake relevant work to what we want to do. We have to take action on our work, we have to focus and then track. So the first one is clarify. So in this report, it has asked us to let everyone know who you are, but not only how you make something, but why you make it. So how do we do that? In the report, they say that storytelling is the best way for craftspeople to communicate the tools they use, the materials, their methodology, and what they hope the client will be able to use the craft for, the transformation. So storytelling to communicate any new project that you're going to undertake. It is really important to say why you are doing your craft, why you're doing it for yourself, why you're doing it for the customer. So we want to challenge you from this report to think about your why and to think about your why you're doing it for your customers and what you hope for them. So the next stage of this craft framework is relevance. Any action we take hopefully will be relevant to ourselves, our business, and our customers. So how do we know if something is relevant? Well, how do we know, firstly, when we look at the report, why your work matters in the lives of your customers? So how will you know that? You need to get to know your customers. Is it relevant to your customers and the trends of the way they're living their life, the craft you are presenting to them? So why your work is relevant. Some of the trends that the report talks about are sustainability and wellness and mindfulness. So can you contribute with your craft to that trend and that people can identify with your business and your craft because of the way they want to live their lives? So we want you to have a look at your customers, have a look at the trends in the report and adapt if it suits you to the trends that are out there. So in the report as well, in relation to relevance, is your pricing that you're putting on your crafts, which is always a difficult area. Is it meeting your customer where they're at? So there are many different models of pricing discussed in this report. Some of them are tiered pricing, small, medium, large is a tier. There are pricing suggestions for limited editions. There's a pay what you think the value is suggestion. There's suggestions for subscription models, paying deposits, but pricing is a trend as well as something that helps sustain your business. So in the report, there are many suggestions for pricing to where your customers or your ideal customers are at. So I just want to set a little challenge for you then. What problems does your craft solve for your customers? Do you know who your customers are and what their problems are? Can you, your top selling product at the moment, what problem is it solving for your customers? What way are you pricing in relation to where your customers are at the moment in their own lives? So that's a useful exercise after you have a look at the report, or even if you don't look at it, have a go at this. So in the craft framework, we then have the A is for action. So once you've clarified why you're in business and why your craft can help your customer with their problems, transform their problem into something that they can live their life with in a better way, a nicer chair, a piece of material that feels good against their skin in your craft, something that helps them use technology with your craft, something that makes them feel good about themselves and their own lives. You must take action. So the report gives us a few clues about what kind of actions can be aligned once you're clear on who you are and that you have the relevant steps. So again, back to storytelling. When you're taking action, you want to connect with people. So you have to tell the story of why you're pricing in that way. Tell the story of what your product can do. Tell yourself the story of why you're doing this, because this is who you are and what you like doing, the way you like working, the hours you want to put into something. So your product is a story, and you want people to connect with your story so they feel part of not only you, but part of your craft. Now, in the report, it has again reiterated that digital is a huge opportunity to tell your story and help people connect with you. You're in your workshop working away on your craft. How will people see what you're doing, who you are? So, digital, you can create something that will explain who you are and let them connect to you, explain your craft, explain how you and your craft resonate with the way they feel about their own lives and the way they want to live their own lives. So, I want to challenge you to even create one digital video story and put it up on social media. It explains your craft, your process, what you hope it might do for your customer. Pick something, tell a story digitally, share it online. Okay, so the next part of the framework that helps us understand how to look at an opportunity is the F of craft, so focus. So once you've got clarity on what you want to do, who you are, who your customers are, once you know the relevance of what you're doing, something that brings you towards your goal. And once you've taken action, then it's time to focus. Okay, so the report helps us focus on certain things that move the needle towards a sustainable craft business for yourself and a chance to take up the opportunities they're talking about in the report. So, one of the opportunities you could focus on is collaboration. So, frequently, craft people work on their own, frequently, they're long hours. If you collaborate, it brings you outside of perhaps the customers that you have at the moment. The customers you have at the moment might also be collaborating with other businesses. Perhaps you could be part of that conversation as well. So, tourism is a very obvious one. The report talks about the crafts people could collaborate with and tell the story of your area, your region, help people connect with your region through your craft. Mental health, so people's mental health and wellness is so important. It's hard to call it a trend, but that's what the market is showing, that wellness and mental health are big in people's lives. So how does your craft contribute to that? And then another potential place to collaborate was with all the building going on in the world, business buildings, office. Could you collaborate in that area? Can your craft contribute to how people live their lives in their homes, in their workplace, in their community spaces? So focus on collaboration. The report has lots of ideas about that. So the report also says when you're focusing on an idea that, like in design thinking, we need to test and prototype our idea. So in a small way, if you are focusing on a new customer type or enhancing what you're delivering to the customers you already have or collaborating in a new area, testing and prototyping lead to more success in innovation than not doing this. So the report has a lot of ideas on how to test and prototype a new piece of craft or test the reaction of the customers to your prototype. It gives you a chance to, on a small scale, take steps that might lead to something bigger. So, as a little challenge, could you identify one way? Could you brainstorm and identify one thing you could do that would help you focus more on who you could collaborate with, how you could test an idea, what kind of prototype you could come up with that then on a small scale you could test out there in the marketplace and get feedback from. So that has something that resonates with design thinking again about testing and prototyping. The report on unveiling the potential of the craft sector has a lot of ideas about how you can do that. So one new market segment, just pick one and see, test and prototype. So in the middle of any project or any new idea, from the beginning, middle, or end, the T of craft is to track what you're doing. So we need to have some figures, benchmarks, metrics, something to help us see where we were, where we're going, what's the difference. So tracking is really important. So in the report, tracking is not just talked about at the beginning or middle. It's actually thinking, I'm going to track for the long game. I'm going to track to see as I go along on the journey where it's all going. It's not just the launch. So there are some things it talks about that would help you. How do you make progress? So you're going to get some figures in your business that show you the progress you're making, right? And then once you look at the figures in every quarter or after testing or every month or every week, you're going to decide the distance you need between tracking one thing and another. You might adapt what you're doing based on the tracking that you've done, and you might tweak and reiterate and go around and do it slightly differently or continue if it's going well. The report has lots of ideas, and then you're just going to keep going so that you can grow. So you're going to track your progress, adapt if you have to, and then keep going. Okay, if you want to grow. So the report also talks about reviewing. So, like tracking, reviewing means that you're regularly going to look at how you feel yourself as a craftsperson, how you like going in every day to do this or not, how your customers are reacting, what are the reviews online like, what are your customers' reviews like when they're in front of you, what are the sales like. You're going to see all the indicators for your success and review how they're going, how you feel about them, how your customers feel about them. Is it possible to keep going with this new idea? Are your customers liking what you're doing? Are you liking what you're doing? So there are a lot of ideas about how to review market trends and your attempts to insert yourself into a new trend if that's what you're doing, or to understand the new way your customers might be thinking due to world events. So reviewing is really important. Track what's going on, how you feel, how your customers feel, what's going on. So in the report, they talk about for someone to be sustainable in their business, not only sustainability of materials and processes, but also in general to keep your cash flow going, to keep your business going, to keep your mental health going as a craftsperson. Sustainability usually has a better chance if people innovate, adapt, bring in new ideas, keep going in a way that is growing. So if we remain static, we have to remember that our customers are not remaining static. The world they live in is not the same as it was even 5 years ago. Craft can anchor us in tradition, but tradition can bring itself up to modern day living. So the report has a lot of talk in it that's very useful about sustainability through innovation. And also then, if we're talking about the track, part of the craft framework, the report talks a lot about tracking tools and toolkits that you could use in general in your craft business for yourself, your customers. I'll just throw out a few ideas that, of course, you track your sales, you track your costs, you track your new inquiries, you might track the hours it took to create a batch. You decide what figures you need to track, what's working, what's not. So tracking is really important. And in general, businesses who track have a much better chance of adapting and changing what they're doing than ones who don't. So the craft framework, C.R.A.F.T, has helped us read through this report on unveiling the potential of the craft sector. I would encourage you to download the report, have a look at it. It's a big report. You can look at the executive summary or ask an AI tool to summarize it for you. What would be very useful is to read the section on the toolkit for craftspersons. There's a toolkit at the end of it about how you would actually implement the recommendations at the end of each chapter in the report. So if you picked one chapter that you felt was relevant to you, perhaps on market trends of customers, or perhaps on ways of pricing, or using different materials in your products, or integrating technology with traditional craft. There's a toolkit there to help guide you along. So what would be great is if you could share an insight once you've downloaded the report and had a look. Share it on your socials, comment underneath this video, help a fellow craftsperson. Usually if we look at something and share an insight, we've already taken some action. So I wish you luck in your craft business. Craft is very important to me. I feel that the future generations need storytelling through craft, who we are as a people now, how we live our lives. And if you have a look at this report, it might help us all into a more sustainable future. So thank you.